So how did you first meet Roy Burton then, Rene?
Well, that came to pass. It was a quiet village, and not many young men about at all, because they'd all gone to war.
Yes.
But one night, we went home from work. I was in the
Land Army.
yeah, and we went, and in the morning when we get back into the farm, and before that, we coming up the lane, we all got bikes, one or two of us, we were working at that time, and there was men, young men everywhere. They were in the fields. Some were under just little old tents, and you think when we were going along the lanes and seeing all these men, where did they come from? And it came to pass that when we found out, they were all army, and it was a real big lot of men had come overnight with nowhere to sleep, and so they'd all bedded down wherever. Some were in the vans or in the lorries. There was, you name it, they were everywhere. And it was that we found later that they were from the Royal Artillery. So, and also, as the time went on, of course, all the men were found. They were soldiers, and they were all found, some billets somewhere, some close, some further away. But they were all there with their guns. Were quite big guns, they seemed to us, as they came rolling through the village. And they were after what we used to call the buzz bombs. They're called, but that's how we knew them as buzz bombs.
Yes.
So, and they came because we were on the coast, and the army was billeted all the way round.
On the mud flats were...
On the mud flats, that's because the mud flats were quite near the farm, quite near, too near really, but that's where they were all billeted with the guns. And as the buzz bombs came over from Holland or France, because that was the area that they both come, those two countries that we knew, as they came, they'd shoot them down. Well, most got through, a few they could get, and I've stood and watched the guns go, and I've watched the buzz bombs come down, but there were lots and lots that got through, and they were the ones that got through to London, we supposed at the time.
Yes.
And that was, and Roy, who was my husband, he was one of the soldiers that drove the trucks, not the ordinary trucks. He used to drive what they called for the carrier of the soldiers.
Yes.
And I don't know how many there were, one or two, because they were quite large lorries, and they used to take the soldiers wherever they'd got to go, when they'd got to go.
Yeah.
So that was how it was.
And how did you meet him then?
Well, of course, we saw these carriers. We used to call them that, but they were
What, transport? Yeah, lorries,
I
yes.
suppose, for the soldiers
Yes.
and the transport of them. We used to see them, and of course we used to talk with lots of soldiers, because there was lots of soldiers that turned up in our little village, and it was quite friendly.
Yes.
And Roy I never met at all like that, walking or just shouting. He was the driver of one of these transport lorries, and I used to go on the transport lorries, occasionally, because they used to go down to the coast, right to the coast, where there was some cinema, a dance hall, and occasionally I'd go with a group,
Yeah.
and there was no way to go, only on your bike. And we knew that these lorries were transport for the soldiers only, not for
Not for land girls.
not for the land girls though. But we overcame that because we got permission by whoever was driving the lorries, and Roy was one of them. And I didn't know at that time. And we'd just go a little way outside in a quiet spot from the village and bunk on one of the lorries, which we were always made welcome, and we were looked after very carefully. And we'd get to the dance or the cinema and home again, and Roy was actually one of the drivers,
Yes.
and he was the driver of the one that I went on one time, and so the conversation began.
Yes.
And they talk about like or love at first sight.
Yes.
I think maybe that's what happened to me. I'd not had a boyfriend, and I was just I wasn't 18, or was I? Only just, if I was. And I thought this was a very nice soldier.
Yeah.
And from then on, we used to meet whenever we could.
Yes.
He used to go, guard, can I say that?
Yeah.
Guard. Yeah, well, he used to have to do guard duty, of
Yes.
course, because these lorries used to be parked everywhere, anywhere, or up a lane, and so there had to be a soldier or soldiers on guard duty with a gun, because they didn't want anything stolen or anything. And Roy was one of the soldiers that had to go on guard duty, which he didn't mind, because when he went, and if he knew he was going, he'd let me know, and I'd go along there, and we'd do guard duty together, which was good fun.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was a good fun. I don't think much guarding was done, but it was a very quiet village, and nothing ever happened badly.
And you decided to get married after you known him 3 months?
Well, yes, because, well, it was just that we met whenever we could, wherever we could. And we talked about it, that we would, yes, we would definitely get married
Yes.
when we could. We didn't think we could, not for a long time, but it didn't quite work out like that.
What happened then? Why did you decide to get married so quickly?
Well, the orders came through, I don't say for all the men, but for quite a few of the soldiers, that the orders were for embarkation leave, that was called in those days. And they got their orders, and Roy was one of them, that he'd got embarkation leave, and he would be leaving the country, probably, not that we knew, but he'd got embarkation leave, and that meant he was going. And so that brought the thought, whatever are we going to do?
Yes.
And so I said, well, the first thing we must do is to go to London, to where my father and mother lived, and ask permission that I could, because Roy was old enough to suit himself,
Yes.
his mum and dad. So we went home, we came to father and mother, and we sat in the kitchen and asked, would they allow us to marry? And father said, I knew this would happen. As soon as she left home, I knew she would get enlisted. And my mother said, old Dick, that was my father's name, old Dick. Why let them get married? It's not as if they're going to live together. So father said, all right. So we were well pleased.
Yes.
We got his
His
input.
permission.
And in those days, I mean, we were only poor people. We weren't. My father was a bus driver, all in regular work, and he knew right from wrong. And he'd had 4 children, and they all. My brother, eldest brother, he was in the army already. My younger brother, he wasn't, because he was found to have consumption once he went to be a soldier, so he had to go to the open hospital for about 2 years, but they cured him. In those days it was a bit harder than these days.
Yes.
But that was him. That was how we married anyway. We and lots of things to do.
It was rationing then, wasn't it? So,
Well, yeah, because nobody had. Well, everybody had a certain amount of coupons, a little bit there, and that's how we managed. I did so want a white wedding. Well, first of all, we went to church to see if we could marry, if we could get married. And the vicar, he was a very nice man. Not that I knew him, because it was a lovely church, a big church. It's still there. And he said he couldn't, the normal, but he could marry us on a Sunday. Now, nobody in those days, again, you didn't get married on a Sunday, but I did, and Roy did. We married on a Sunday. And
did you have a special license to do that?
yes, we had a special license. We did have to have a special license because it was, but it was all done. And so we were all right then. But then how about what to do, where to have it? Well, we couldn't have a hall or anything. There wasn't anything to go, where to go, or nothing. And so the suggestion was we'd take all the doors off in my mum and dad's house. It wasn't a big house, it was 3 bedrooms, but it was only a quite small house.
That's in Ilford, isn't it?
Every door was taken off, and it made it quite large. It looked larger. Even the lounge looked larger. I can see it now. Because that's where the reception would have to be, because it was all, we had about 3 days to do it. That was arranged. And then the say was, how about the wedding dress? Well, my sister, bless her, still alive and going strong. She was married about a month prior to this, for ours. So her dress had been cleaned and she still had it. So that fitted me perfectly. That was good. I'd got a cousin that had still got the veil from her wedding. So I borrowed that, so I had a veil and a dress. That was fine. Now what to do about the flowers? Well, we were lucky because there was a shop in Ilford and sold flowers and things. And so that was, somebody went and ordered the flowers, and I asked Mother, what flowers shall I have? And I know her flowers were sweet peas. So I had have one made of sweet peas, a nice bouquet it was too. It was pretty, and it pleased Mother, so that pleased me. That was good. And then what to say about the food? Now, food was in shortcomings very shortcomings really, and I can't tell you exactly what we ate,
No.
but what with one person and another who had a few coupons for this or that or the whatever, they gave us so we had enough food in the easy to get, and if you could dig something up in
Yes.
Father's allotment, I expect, because that was just out the back, that was dug up, the vegetables, things like that, and also then you've got to think about the drink. Now you couldn't go and buy drink as well as you wanted to. You couldn't buy any. But I got another cousin. I got a big family up there in London, a big family, and he got us quite a lot of drink, enough for the company that would want drink. So that was the drink and the food, and also something how they had to get a cook, because to have so many people coming into your house, Mother wasn't capable. She was a cook. She could cook, but this man, I don't know, he's a nice man, I don't know his name now, but he came and did all the cooking.
Yes.
So that made it so much easier for
Yes.
my mum,
Yes.
and she was pleased as well.
Yes.
So, and he saw me when I was all in the rough before the wedding, I might say, because we were working and doing this and getting that.
Yes.
And then I went upstairs to the bedroom, and my sister helped me dress. And and when I came down the stairs, I can see him now. He's standing there, and he said, "Ah, you look better now." And that was the man that did all the cooking. I don't know who he was. Somebody brought him in.
And then later on, Roy embarked, and he went to India. But that's another story.
Well, that is another story. Yeah.